Awesome. So I think we're good to go. We got the green light going. So I'll just present myself quickly. My name is Philip, and I'm the product manager at Rossum. And today I just wanted to take you through the app, maybe give you a short overview of the whole workflow, how it works, how it looks, and in the best case, you would just after the walkthrough, you would try our free trial, which is accessible from the Rossum website, and you would just try to do the things on your own. So, and I'm of course very glad that you guys made some extra time for this. Either it's super early in the morning or you're almost sleeping, but still we're very happy that we can host you here for this walkthrough. So the agenda would be that first I would just briefly describe how Rossum works. Then I'll quickly talk about the UI features because we think that our UI is quite intuitive and easy to use, and it's one of the great things on our product. Then I'll jump to the configuration and customization because depending on your company or your workflow, you might need some different fields set up when you're extracting the data. And afterwards, we'll have a look how to export the data because for most of the people, the goal of the whole Rossum experience is to get the data as quickly as possible without any errors to the accounts payable systems or ERPs. And afterwards, once I'm just done with the quick overview, I will walk you through the Rossum app, and then we can just have a look at some questions and answers which arise during the whole presentation. So once you enter our app, you'll see like a dashboard where we show you a list of queues and workspaces, which are basically just folders where you upload the document. And of course, all of this runs in a browser. So your reviewers can just open their browsers, get to the right URL, and they can start using Rossum. And how the whole workflow is going, which basically was the idea of the first slide, which we couldn't see, is that you can import documents to Rossum over multiple like different types of incoming components. So one would be that you can send documents over an email to Rossum. So basically we have an inbox where we give you the name of the inbox, which is just like a mail address. And you can send the documents either by forwarding the documents to Rossum from your inbox, or you can just give your vendors the ID of our email inbox, and they can just send the invoices or documents to Rossum right away. Um, another option is to use the import button in the app, where you can just upload documents manually, or you can upload them over an RPA, like a robot, which would upload documents to the system, or over the API. Once the documents get into the system, the AI starts processing them. We try to locate the fields which you're trying to extract, and once that is done, the documents appear in the to review state with like a blue dot, and you can click on the document and you can just go ahead and extract the data. During the extraction, you might be using one of our extensions, which is basically we try to set up the whole environment that is extendable enough, because we know that in a lot of your processes, you need some special checks on the data, you need some purchase order matching, vendor matching, and things like that. So we have some extensions available in the place where you can get the data from the documents, you can do some checks, and you can show some messages to the user with that maybe some things need correction, or they have to be checked. And once you're done with the validation on the document, you can confirm the document. And at that point, again, depending on your workflow, the if you're using, let's say, this extension, the documents could be sent to your extension, where you will transform the Rossum data to the format which is needed for in the, let's say, ERP or AP system. And then you can just send the data right when the user clicks on the confirm button. Or you can just confirm the document, and within the app you can download the file format which is necessary, like an XML, JSON, or something else. And yeah, that's basically the whole idea of the workflow. And from the very beginning, you will be like on this dashboard, where one of the features which we are trying to improve is searching over the documents, because a lot of users want to search over the extracted data or the file names or things like that. So that's why I have here the thing that you can filter the documents by specific date, file name, or some extracted value. So once you're in the app, you kind of understand the workflow. You realize, oh, okay, so first of all, I would like to pre-fill some of the fields with the AI, because of course Rossum is claiming that we have some AI which out of the box extracts some of the fields. So we have a list of 48 fields, and for those fields, you can just go ahead and link them to the Rossum AI, and it does the pre-filling. Or additionally, you might want to extend some of the fields. So we're also ready for that, and I'll show that in the product walkthrough. So once you're done with the field setup, you can decide how you want the data to be exported. So as I said, we have the CSV export, JSON export, XML export, or Excel export. So you can just get the data once you're done with reviewing of the files. And again, as I said before, you can also set up some validation checks, which will be shown to the user when the user is trying to capture data on the document. Moreover, we have some event notifications, because in some workflows, you might want to get notified whenever a document is switched from, let's say, a status, which is like a reviewing status, to a postponed status, where the user actually decided that some domain expert needs to have a look at this invoice. So with specifying like a webhook event, you can get a notification that a document switched from one state to another. And I think most of the time we'll just spend on the Rossum app walkthrough. So I just wanted to get quickly over all the other slides. This is the dashboard where you will be taken, and what you can see is that we have multiple tabs on the screen, which is the to review part. So basically, when you import the document over the email, or when you just click this import button, where you can upload the PNG, JPEG, PDF, or I think we also support a TIFF file. Then you can just go ahead, upload something, and click done. Or you can copy this email inbox, and you can send documents to this email inbox, where the attachments of the email will be processed within Rossum. Again, it also depends whether we are able to process those attachments. So that's how you get the documents to Rossum. For most of the documents, the AI will process the documents without problem. It usually, I think, takes around 5 minutes to process the document, which is like a maximum time. We usually try to say that, yes, we are able to process the documents within 5 minutes. And in some cases, some of the documents might just not be imported, and this depends on various reasons, but we're first of all working on the length of the documents. So right now we have 32 pages maximum for the documents, but even this limit can be extended. So once you're in the to review, you can just go ahead and click on the document where you will try to get the captured data uh, and move them further in the pipeline. What we have here is the postpone tab, where, as I said, if you need some domain expert or it has some uh, things where you're not sure about on the invoice, you can just move it to the postpone tab, where later you might have a look at it. And then we have this status called confirmed, which in the workflow is an optional state. Right now, how the confirmed tab works is that you, let's say, uh, for this day, let's say today, you review 100 documents, you accumulate them in the confirmed tab, and if some of the reviewers realize that they made a mistake during the review, they could just open the document again in the confirmed state, update some value, then confirm it again, and maybe at the end of the day, you would have a robot which would take all the documents from the confirmed tab and move them to the ERP or AP system. Or maybe you would decide that this confirmed state is redundant, and you might want to just disable the state, which you can do in the app, and I'll show that later. And it really depends on the workflow which you have, because sometimes you might want to get the data right away when you're reviewing the data. So you would process one document. When you're done with the document, you would want the data immediately in the ERP or the AP system. Or there are cases where, as I said, you can move the data to the target system at the end of the day. So it really depends on your workflow. The exported tab is mainly for archiving all the documents which should be successfully passed to the target system. And as usually, we have this deleted bucket where you can just store documents which were just incorrect, or there was some problem with them. So I was thinking that I could show you how extracting of the data works. So if you click on the document which you uploaded to Rossum, we extract some of the fields which should be on the document right away, and you can just walk through them. As I said, we have 48 out of the box fields, but you can extend the list of the fields on your own later, which I will show too. So clicking on the field should show you the location of the field if it's available on the document, and you should just see the correct value. There are like various ways how to get the data quickly, because what our goal is to get the data as quickly as possible, extract the data. So there are options that we show you this suggest box, which, like, if you just click on the box, it gets the value extracted. You should maybe move a little bit because the number, it should be just the number, and you can just confirm it. Another way, yeah, except the just clicking on the box, you can just click and draw a bounding box, which is just like the suggest box should make you faster. And there's other fields which are there, but I wanted to show that in some cases you might want to extract multiple values for a field. This happens sometimes for, let's say, purchase order ID. There could be multiple of them, or maybe a bank account number. So we have this field which is called, let's say, a multi-value, and for this multi-value you could have multiple values inside it, which might be handy in some cases. So those are the standard fields in the sidebar. Maybe what I should mention is that, as I said, we have this arrangement of workspaces, where workspace is like a container, which could be like either for your maybe you have like multiple organizations so for which you're processing the data. So you could divide like for each workspace you could have it should belong to the organization, and within each organization you would process maybe receipts, maybe purchase orders, maybe invoices. So each of those documents would be processed in a separate queue. And for each of the queues, we have to define something which we call an extraction schema. And the extraction schema says what fields you would like to extract, how they're filled with from the point of view of the AI, and maybe what the format of the data should be. And according to the extraction schema, we just show the fields here in the left part. Maybe there was a thing I should have said from the beginning. And you can also define some enums, which are fields which can have multiple values, pretty standard thing. And for example, here you can choose one of the currencies, but this should be what I have here, dollars. Okay. One of the great things about Rossum is that we're trying to be as extendable as possible. So for example, you can define your own button here, which could open a pop-up pop-up window where you could, like this shows that there should be some web server showing you a content. So that's like a, so just get back to the document. Yeah, as I said, we're just trying to be as extendable as possible. Then one of the cool features is when you need to process line items. So we have this footer part where you can define all the rows which have to be extracted. And one of the really cool things is something which we call a magic grid, which is a tool which helps you out with extracting line items. So if you would click on this button, you would see that we already located a table. There are some fields which were assigned to it. So maybe if you would need to correct a field, so if this would be predicted as a code column, then you can just change the label to description. There's some quantity, and we see that there is an amount column which doesn't have a label. So you could just go ahead and assign the correct label. And once you're done, you could just click read data from table, and the values should be correctly extracted, and you should see the total value, which is the sum of the column, which we found out is a great thing for users when they need to check the data with the total amount, let's say in this left part over here, which should match in ideal case. For working with the line items, we also made some improvements which would speed up the data capture process. And for that, we've made something like copy grid, or which is a thing where sometimes we extracted only one table, and what you would need is that you would need to move the table to a second page. So what you could do, you could take the table and copy it to the next page and just paste it there. Like if here would be some data which you would need to extract, and in order to keep the consistency of the extracted columns, you could just if you would here change it to the code label, and you would want this change to be applied to all the other tables. You could just click apply this change to all other tables, and here you can see that the code was transferred correctly. But again, as I said, this is quantity, and let's just preserve it on all the tables. Okay. For those tables, sometimes you might need two different things extracted from the documents. So that's why when you're defining the extraction schema, you can set different tables to be extracted. So for example, here I would have the commercial invoices, and in another footer, I would have the packing lists, which like in this setup, I have them set up to be extracted from the same parts, but in your workflows, you might be able to extract two different tables which have different schemas. So for example, the packing lists could have weights, it could have the SKU, it could have some other things too. Another thing which might help you out when you're processing the document is that sometimes you might get documents which is just like a batch. Sorry, I'll just turn off my Slack. So you might get documents which compose of two invoices. So here you can see that I have a document of 4 pages, and I'm thinking, okay, I would like to split this. And we've created this UI, so it's easy to split. You can also rotate documents, or you can just delete some of the pages. Now, if I would just click on this tick, it would take the documents and it would run them through the AI again, since the documents changed and the extraction should be done again. I'll just discard the changes and go further. Okay, so I think we're good with the extraction part. So I should tell you more about how you could set the things correctly so you can start using Rossum right away. And one of the things is that you can set up multiple queues or workspaces, or you can create users which would have access to the environment you set up. So here we have a list of queues. So this is a workspace. I have 2 queues. And when I click on the queue, I would get to its detail, and I can see that there are 3 users which have access to this queue, which basically means that they can see them in the left sidebar on the dashboard. And for each of the queues, I can just have a look at the fields which I have set up. But if I would like to add a new field, I could just go ahead and click on this button, Edit Schema, which takes me to the schema editor. So as I said, this is the actual extraction schema, which defines what will be extracted and what fields the users can see. And it should just you should see there exactly almost what the user sees when they're validating the document. And here you can do some like extra things which define the field types and format they're shown in. So maybe I'll just go through it quickly. So we have a part here which is a section. The section has some ID, it has some label, and moreover it has some children fields where this field says, okay, I'm an invoice type field and I'm an enum, and I have 3 options which the user can choose. So it's either a receipt, an invoice, or a credit note, and its field values can be let's say predicted by the AI engine, which it can be set up here in the rear field names. So rear field names is actually a place where you would just list the IDs of the fields which can be predicted by the AI engine. It's like a standard output of the generic AI engine which we have. And somewhere in the documentation, which is here, you can find a list of fields which can be predicted. So if you would find a field invoice type, you would just copy the ID and you would paste it here into the real field names. And whenever the Rossum AI is processing your document, the field would be predicted according to this ID. So yeah, and there are like multiple fields which we've set up. What I wanted to show is that we're trying to extend this editor as much as we can. Right now it's like in a pretty raw state, but we're slowly working on it. So we've added this enum editor where you can just add new options with the label, which is shown to the user, and with the ID, which should be then passed to the target system. And you can even like copy values, which right now, like I had this Fortune 500 Google sheet open, but I'm pretty scared to open it again because I wouldn't be able to get back to the app. I would, but it's pretty scary to go over this bar. Anyways, so what you can do is, let's say I copy those values here. I have this enum over here which says payment state, and since I already copied things from the clipboard, I can just hover over this part and I can paste all the values. So the ideal case is that I would have a Google sheet with the vendor IDs and vendor names. I would just copy the two columns and I would go here. I could paste them, and in such a case, when I'm reviewing the document, I would have the list of available vendors in the app, and I could just select one in the enum, and then it would be sent to the target system. So as I said, we're trying to evolve this as much as we can, and you can even set up the things which are extracted in the table for the line items. So you can see that there are some string fields. It has some labels, and when you click on the specific fields, you scroll to the exact part. Okay, and then you can just save the extraction schema and continue reviewing the documents. I think I had maybe two more things which I wanted to show, and then we can move to the questions if you have some. And one of them was the user management. So you can just add any user, and once you add the user with the email address, the user will be sent with a link where they can set up the password, and they can log into the app according to the user privileges which you assign to them. So they can either just be a viewer where they see the documents in a read-only mode. They can be an annotator, which can process the documents and confirm the values, or they can be a manager, which can see the usage statistics, how users annotate, how many documents are imported, or how many corrections are done. Or you can be the admin, which is like you have full access to all the setups. You can invite new users and create new queues, workspaces, and everything. And I think this is the last thing which I wanted to show is that we have this reporting dashboard where you can select any of the queues and the users which you would like to show the data for. And you can just query how many documents were imported to the system, how many were exported, how many were deleted, how much time it took for the document to like get the data captured and get to the exported state, which is the average turnaround time, which basically says, oh, the document was imported at this date, it was extracted at this date, so it took, let's say, 2 days to process the data. We also show some corrections done on the documents, average, and it's filtered by the granularity, weekly granularity, which you can set up here. And you can even set up the date range, which is required. So let's say I would just choose the 3 days here. I would click OK. You can see that here pop-ups a button with apply changes, and you can just have a look at the data. And this should help you out with the whole reporting, how effectively the users work, how well the system performs with the extractions, how many corrections you have to do. And it's just a great tool for getting more efficient and for having a full control over the whole workflow. And I think those were the main things which I wanted to show. One thing that you might have noticed is that like here I have a special column which has the extracted data on the dashboard. That's something we don't have available to set up in the app, like in the UI right now. But that's again another thing which a lot of users wanted and said it's critical in their process to just be able to visualize the, let's say, invoice number, and we'll edit we'll make it editable in the UI too, but you can edit it over the API. So I think those were the key things. And as I'm thinking, the one things which I haven't mentioned here is the power of the extensions. So let's say if here I would be extracting the order number, I would write there the number 123, and you can see that like here on this button it says validating when I edit the value, and it's actually a point where if you have an extension set up, you would be sending the data of the whole document to this extension, where it's like a microservice where you can just do some checks and check whether like this number looks correct, whether you can maybe compare it to the master data in your database, and pre-fill some of the existing values. And that's something which we call right now a connector extension, and you can read more about it in the developer hub which we have, or the help center, which actually is a thing which if you would click here, you can get two links to the help center and the developer hub. Or if you have any problems within the app, you can just report a problem, and we would get the issue which happened to you with all like the debugging things which we need, and that just might help you get the question answered or get the problem reported. So I think that's all from the walkthrough. Or maybe, as I'm thinking, okay, I'll just do one more thing. I'll show you how actually getting the data works. So if I would here click confirm, it would take me to another document in the workflow. But what I'm more interested is about this part here. So you can see that here is the confirmed document. When I would click on the document, you can see the values are in read-only mode because I already confirmed them. But maybe I realized, oh, the order number shouldn't be there. So I could click on this icon over here, which would move the document back to the reviewing state. I could just clear the value, and I would confirm the document again. Now the values are correct, so I could either click this button over here, or I would just click on the export button, and it would first of all, it would download all the data which I need in one of the formats, and it would move them to the exported tab. So you can see I got the values downloaded, and if I would move to the exported tab, you can see that the document is there. So I got the data, I can move them to the target system, and everything is perfect. So yeah, I think I went through everything, the lifecycle, editing the values, UI, and that's it. So I wanted to look at the questions and answers. So this was, I think, answered. We will somehow share the recording. Is any subject needed in the email sent to the queue? No, I think we should be processing all the emails which come to the system, and that have some attachment which are in the necessary format. Then Or does a simple blank email with attached invoice as PDF will be enough? I think it should be enough, because we do no checks on the data. Actually, what we released like 14 days ago is that you can get the document subject or the email of the sender, and you can pre-fill some of the values in when you're like validating the document. So if you would open the document, in the left part you could have a field which says sender name, which would be pre-filled by the sender email address. That was a thing that again, some customers reported that it's very helpful to have the email address when you're annotating the document, and it is doable. There were some works with some kinds of reports. Uh, I think I answered the question by showing the usage reports, which are in the app, so you can just browse through the graphs. Uh, we're working on adding a download button, which would just download the data in an Excel sheet, so you could do just your own reporting. So you would basically have all the source data, and you could do whatever visualization on the data according to your needs. How do we access, for instance, the JSON with the results from a processed invoice documents API or UI? So again, as I showed, when you're moving from the confirm document, you would just click on the export button, which would download the documents with data. And even if you would, if you would be looking for documents which were processed in the past, so those should be all documents which were archived in the ERP. So still you can just click on a single document, you can hover over the export icon and download one of the data formats which are available. Okay. And of course, over the API, it works as well. Like any of the actions which we do in the UI, it has some API endpoint. We have the documentation, which you can access through the developer hub, and everything should be described there. I think in a pretty nice manner. It's all documented very well, and you should be able to get the data over the API too. Do you have some information about the structure of price? I mean, the cost of implementation, and after there is a monthly cost by user. So we go by a subscription model, and you should be able to discuss this question with our sales department. That's not a question for me. So if in any case you would have any questions, you can just in the trial version, which I would recommend using, is at the top you would have this upgrade button where you could just book a call with one of our sales guys, and they would be definitely open to talking about the structure of price, because it very much depends on the length of the document and things like that. Also, if you're having the generic AI engine, because what we use like out of the box is our own what we call generic AI engine, which has the 48 fields extracted. But if you need some extra field, you can define it in the extraction schema, which would add it to the like one of the extracted fields. And if you would want to extract that field automatically, you could decide to purchase the option for the dedicated AI engine, which basically means that we'll fine tune the AI engine to your data. So let's say you would annotate 500 documents with this new field, and we would be able to create your own custom model, which would predict the data which you want. So yes, the pricing depends on a lot of aspects. Can the tool handle variations in format of the invoices? For example, different stores, companies have different formats on invoices. So this is a no template tool. So it's basically like the AI engine is a set of some pre-processing of the images. Then we have some neural network, and then we do some post-processing. So what we look at is the visual composition of the documents. We don't have like any templates set up. So you just like upload the documents into the system, and the AI engine, by looking at, let's say, pixels and positions and different contexts, it predicts the position of the fields and extract the text out of the fields. So the generic AI engine is trained on a huge data set of documents, so it should generalize quite well. And as you keep using the system more and more, we should be getting better at predicting the data for the vendors, which you've already processed some of the documents for. Then this question, how does the tool handle scan documents? So how does the tool handle scan quality? So what we recommend is that you upload the documents in the 300 dpi resolution. And like I think the whole idea of this tool, first of all, it was based on processing scan documents, because it was a great challenge, I think. So you can just take the scanned PDF or an image and you can upload it to Rossum, and we'll be able to process that. If it is in Latin-based languages, for other languages, like we don't have such support now. When you upload multiple documents, is it correct that most part are processed fully automatically and a few need manual review? So it very much depends on the data and the format of the documents you're getting. And we're trying to claim that like most of the fields will be extracted automatically, but as I say, it very much depends on the invoices format, on the complexity of the documents, and in a case where the accuracy of extraction wouldn't be as good, you can always decide to go with the dedicated AI engine, where if you have enough documents manually annotated, then we can just train a document towards your needs, which would be specialized on your invoices. Where do we find the email address for Rossum auto import? If you would just, like when you're on the dashboard, you click the import, you should usually see the email address in there, because whenever you create a new queue in the UI, we generate a new email inbox for the queue. So it's like a special email address for the queue. And in a case where it's not in there, you might want to create the inbox over the API, because right now in the app we don't have this inbox management, where if you have a queue and it doesn't have an inbox, you would create it right in the app. So either it is here and you can just copy it and use it as it is, or over the API we have the documentation, or you can use something which we called like Alice CTL, which is a command line tool which helps you out with setting up the API objects and everything. And again, you can find it in the developer hub, or I think we have like a GitHub repo for this. Okay. When you talk about the app, do you mean the browser version of the reviewer, or is there a mobile app? What are the possibilities to implement the reviewer in? Okay, so like the place where all the work should happen is the browser version. So it's a regular web application. What you can use is you can use our Android or iOS app, which would enable you to get a picture of the document, and you would link it to the specific queue, and it would upload the document to the queue. So I would just take my phone, I would take a picture of the invoice, I would select the received EU invoices, I would click on the send button, and it would arrive here in this folder, which is a queue, and it would get processed. When it's processed, the reviewer would just click on the document, because let's say you would have a team of 5 users, which like here I have 6 users. All the users could have access. Like for example, here I have this annotator. So the annotators would be users which aren't admins. They cannot create queues or workspaces, but they can capture the data on the documents. So as the annotator, I would here click on one of the documents. According to the extraction schema, I would extract all the data. I would click on the confirm button, and I would just go document by document, and I would process them all. And then you can get the extracted data later. Okay. What about the automation of confirm process? Do you have an auto confirm? Yes, so it's a thing on which we are constantly working. So like here, if you would go to the queue settings, we have multiple parts here. So you have like this general part where we have the name and region and the email inbox if available. And we also have this like automation part, which says that like we have three modes. Either the document will never be automated, and by automation we mean that it will be automatically switched to the exported or confirmed state. So like either it will never happen, or it will happen always where there are no errors on the fields, because you might have set up some fields to be required. But if all of the fields get extracted correctly, there is no problem with the format. So for example, if you have a date field and a numeric value would be extracted, it would throw out a formatting error. But if there are no errors like that, then automatically documents would be moved to the exported state. And the last part is something which we call a confident automation, which basically says that we have the AI engine. The AI engine tries to extract some of the fields, and the AI engine has some confidency with which it is extracting the values. And what I could define here is that if the confidency of the AI is above some threshold, which is between 0 and 1, then you would automate the documents automatically. Like we're working on this whole automation setup, and like we're trying to like the ideal goal is that you define some threshold, and with that threshold, let's say 20% of your documents could be fully automated, and the threshold, which is 0.975, should say that in the automated documents there is possibility for like a 2.5 error rate of the fields, which is like similar to when humans are annotating the documents and they do some errors. So like with this case, all the things would be done automatically. No manual review would be done. So it's basically just savings of manual labor, and it would be automated based on the threshold. If you would want to read a little bit more about the automation, we have the developer hub, which I again showed here. So if you would click on the developer hub, and there's like a set of guides, so then there is a part about automation, because it has like a lot of aspects. You could do like your own validation checks. It has those confidence scores for each extracted fields, and there should be also some built-in checks which should help with the automation. Okay. What happens when a user uploads a blurry receipt made with mobile phone? That's a good question. It depends about how blurry it is. So we have the extraction model trained on, as I said, like usually the documents with like 300 dpi resolution, and even the OCR which we trained is trained on some model. So that's a very difficult question, and it's sometimes you should just go ahead and try the free trial or the app and see if that works for the images of your quality which you have. Is this tool only designed for invoices at this time? So the pre-trained model or the generic AI engine which predicts things out of the box, it's mostly designed for invoices. But if you give us a big enough sample, which I think is around like 500, we can train the model towards your needs. And if there's some like general pattern among those documents, and it can be tweaked, like we've done a lot of different document types, not just invoices, but the pre-trained model is for invoices. In the future, we would like to extend it by other document types like purchase orders and things like that. Can we change any field options like invoice stub in this free version? Yes. So like you can basically add any number of fields which you want in the schema editor. Do you offer pre-training directly from our database, like to bring down integration cost and increase accuracy? So if you would provide the documents in a good enough format with the bounding boxes and all things like that, then I think this could be done. But it would have to be discussed with our solution engineering department. And once you get some point of contact, you should be able to discuss it with them. Does automatic processing of invoice PDF file happen once the file arrives in the queue? Yes. So once you send the document to the queue and it is in the correct format and it's within the limit of the pages, then it gets extracted right away. So it would be moved to this importing state, which I might just quickly show here. So let's say I would have document, and right away it's switched to this importing state and the data is being extracted. Okay. How long the documents can be stored in software? So the documents would be stored there for the lifetime of the humanity. No, so yes, the documents are stored like either like in one of the states, and I guess that's what would answer the question. Like sometimes we get questions that the documents should be removed after some time, but like again, it's up to the talk with the sales department or the customer success department, and might need some extra data retention agreement between Rossum and your organization. Is it possible to filter the dashboard per customer, user, and per date period, for example? Okay, so either you mean the dashboard with the documents. So we have this date filter here, which would say this quarter or last quarter, and once you hit apply, it would find the documents based on the timeline. So I think if I would just hit when it was modified. Let me, it should be fine. Received at this quarter. Let's see. Okay, I got something. And like maybe the question was targeted at the statistics page. So here you can again filter the documents by the quarter. Can you customize the reviewer? I mean, rebrand. So we offer some branding, like some versions of branding, which would include like putting the company logo somewhere in the app, or the name of your company, some icon customization, and it depends on the like what type of branding you would need, and it should be again consulted with the point of contact which you would get once you contact the Rossum sales department. Can you explain how secure the data is once uploaded to Rossum? Any breach of security could be treated as GDPR breach. So we are getting the security, information security certification done. Like I think it's ISO 27001, and like we're trying to be as secure as possible. Especially like for big enterprises, it's a problem, and that's why we're getting the information security certification done. And like we undergo some penetration testing. Yeah, everything should be in place. There is a maximum of people that can use the platform. And do you work integrated with SAP ERP? I don't think we have like a maximum number of people that can use the platform. I'm right now not sure about like different pricing packages. Some of them might be limited by the number of queues or people, which I'm not sure right now. But generally, like if you have like hundreds of people who should work in the app, like you should be able to do that. And about the integration, that's a good question. We don't have a direct integration with SAP, but there is a list of partners which might be able to help you out, which you can find on the Rossum webpage, or if like we could help you inside. We have a global services team, which like for some customers, we are able to develop the connector extension, which basically once you confirm the document, we would do some like transformations according to your needs, and we would call the API of the target endpoint. So it depends on the discussion with the solution engineering team, but we don't have like integration with the SAP right away. What we have, like from the integrations, we've integrated recently with Zapier, where you can set up some flow which can get you the data to systems like Xero, QuickBooks, FreshBooks, whatever is in Zapier. But otherwise, we have some partners which some do like the SAP integrations, and multiple others. Can it process every kind of document or only invoices? So it can process any type of a PDF. What we're not able to extract right now are Word or Excel documents, but we hope to get such solution ready to where we would just convert the documents like Word or Excel, and we would process them. But yeah, otherwise you can just upload any document which is in JPEG, PNG, PDF, and if you have the extraction schema set up, and maybe if you have like a lot of custom fields or like fields that are not on invoices, you might need some custom training of the data, which is done by the dedicated AI engine. So I hope I got all the questions answered, and like if you still want to want to ask something else, I can answer it. Otherwise, I would thank you all for joining this webinar. I'm glad like you had amazing questions, and since you were here, it means that you're interested in the product, and I think we're building something which is very easy to use, and hopefully you would try our free trial, which is accessible from the Rossum webpage. You can even subscribe to the Rossum newsletters and get all the updated info. Awesome, good feedback to hear. most informative and helpful. Cheers to you too, and either enjoy the day or have a good night. Thank you, everyone.